Hello and welcome to the legal side of things. Today on the show, we're joined by one of the leading criminal lawyers in the country, former Additional Solicitor General, a senior advocate in the Supreme Court, but also someone who's known for his heart in the Supreme Court, and all members of the bar and lawyers across the board love him, Mr. Sidharth Luthra. Mr. Luthra, as I welcome you on the show, it's a delight to have you. And it's not only because of the young lawyers who will be watching you, who are inspired by you, but also to really understand some of the key defining courtroom moments that you've been a part of. I begin from the very start. 1991, you joined the law. You wanted to be an architect. You were a mathematics buff, but you chose to follow in the footsteps of your father. You worked with Bhasin and Company in corporate law, but because of your father's unfortunate demise, you had to join the profession in 1991, but 97 you followed in his practice. Take us through which were the most impactful moments at that time.
I never wanted to be a practicing lawyer. I wanted to be an academic. I went to England. My professor put a condition on me, Professor B.B. Pandey. He's very kind to me. He still guides me. He's in Lucknow now, post-retirement. He said, Sidharth, you do an MPhil in criminology, because when I went to get a certificate, a recommendation for a master's in Cambridge, he refused to give it to me. He insisted I should take a recommendation for the MPhil in criminology, which he gave me. I later learned he also wrote a letter to the director of the MPhil course, and it read as thus: Sidharth, I'm sending my student Sidharth. He wanted to do the LLM, but I told him to do the MPhil. I hope you will consider him. I did get the admission in Cambridge. I did my MPhil in criminology. I came back and I joined Bhasin and Company, wanted to teach, applied, missed the date. In fact, Justice Indermeet Kochar, who used to sit then in Bhasin Company on the next desk, I told her about it. She became a lecturer at that point. I did not. They now call it assistant professor. My grandfather was ailing at that time, so I'd come back. Actually, I didn't do my PhD. I had to give up. I had an admission. I had an offer to study and teach at Franklin Pierce Law School at Concord, New Hampshire. I'd also applied to Edinburgh, but I didn't follow up on anything, and I came back within a span of 7 days because my grandfather was not well. Family means the world to me. Friends and family mean the world to me. You're a friend of mine, you should know that.
Thank you.
Of course you are, you know that. Now, what happened was I came back, my grandfather was ailing. I worked for a year, Bhasin and Company. And then my grandfather passed away, I got married. Unfortunately, my father passed away 4 years later. By 96, he was having some poor health. He passed away in May of 97. So from being a suited booted lawyer, a commercial lawyer, getting companies incorporated, running around for industrial licenses, I had to make a complete shift to my practice because the clients who used to brief me, for 6 months I was coordinating. So a lot of them said they'll keep me on as junior counsel for continuity's sake. Some were possibly just very generous and kind people. Essentially, I retained 99.9% of the work. But as junior counsel, and I had to brief others. So suddenly I had an option. I could either continue with my civil commercial practice or switch to the field of criminal law. I'd done some criminal matters. And contemporaneously, I had also applied to teach at the Delhi University, and I got an opportunity to teach in Delhi University in 1997 for a year. So I was visiting faculty there at the princely sum of 2,500 rupees a month. And the only tough part was checking the examination papers. That's a very tough task. Even now when I have to check the AOR examination papers,
yes,
it requires time, concentration. And the last time, the students got their results, but I got a frozen shoulder, or almost the beginning of a frozen shoulder, because I was sitting in the same position for a few days, non-stop, just correcting the papers. Teaching was a great experience. 1997, I was teaching limitation, arbitration, international institutions. In fact, I'd never studied international institutions. Practicing lawyers teach subjects which are civil procedure, criminal procedure, evidence, substantive subjects which lawyers practice. My dad was ailing, so I'd missed the bus. And when I went of choosing the subjects, so when I went to Professor Namita Agarwal, who was the head, she said, Sidharth, you can teach anything. You've been my student, don't worry. I said, ma'am, I am seriously worried. So I had to read up. So I had to read up a lot. The condition I had was that I would devise my own course, and I did. So that was the first part of the journey. The next part of the journey was 97 to 2000, 90 to 2000.
Yes, the Karnataka cases.
Karnataka. So it was a litigation which I inherited from my wife Jaitley, because that's the time our second son decided to be on the way. He came in 98 February, a younger boy, saw him, and while he was on the way, the matter blew up in Karnataka. So a litigation which Jaitley had to handle, I had to start going for. And for 2 years, I used to be there 15 days a month.
In fact, I have seen even today when I have a lot, because unfortunately Republic has a lot of cases thanks to the Karnataka Congress party in Karnataka. But whenever I speak to any lawyer, they have an immense respect for you. They're very excited and they immediately message me, Sidharth sir is here in Karnataka or in the Bangalore High Court. So I think you continue to have a lot of respect there for those cases and the other cases that you've continued to do in Karnataka.
In fact, there's a building called, I think, Golden Arch on the way to the old airport. I was looking for an apartment there, thinking that I may actually set up an alternate office there, because I was there so often and I was getting work there, so I might as well do some work there. Jaitley, of course, at that time had to handle, though she is a commercial lawyer, she was handling some of my criminal cases here, including the bail. So she had a variety of experience in that. So that was the first thing. Remember, having lost my father, I was lost. I was like Abhimanyu. I used to see my father's files, I used to see his notes. I could read them because they were very well written. He had a very good handwriting. But I could not always comprehend why he'd written it, because I was new to the field of criminal law.
Yes.
But then Tehelka happened. My friend Kavin Gulati, amazing soul, generous man, very dear friend. It was his brief, it was his baby. He roped me in. And that gave me a boost. All these boosts have their flip side, but it was really a transformation in my career. That's the time, till that time I used to, by the way, speak to the TV on cases I did. Tehelka was one of them. You know, one was young, one didn't know better, and one wanted to be seen. And I was nobody, I was really a trial court practitioner. I remember one of our colleagues who's a senior advocate for a while now in Supreme Court, in the Delhi High Court, who told me, possibly not very kindly, after my father passed away, that Sidharth, we don't see you in the High Court any longer. My answer was, I come when I have work, because I didn't have work. I had very limited work. My work was Tisazari, Patiala House, a little in Karkaduma, and I would take what I got.
I want to cut across to 2007 when you became a senior advocate. What drove you to it? How did that happen?
There's a story behind that, before that. Two people pushed me into a different direction. One was Justice Dalveer Bhandari and one was Justice S.K. Agarwal. I remember 2001-2, I'd done about 11-12 years practice and I was asking for a passover. And on different occasions, both of them said, Mr. Luthra, you are not entitled to a passover. You are now too senior to get a passover. You can't, you have to argue a matter, you can't do this. 2005 December, yes. It was a lawyer's wedding. Justice Sikri, who'd been a teacher at the Delhi University, who I treat also as one of my mentors. Mrs. Sikri met me at a wedding and said, Sidharth, Arjun is looking for you. So I went looking for sir. Couldn't find sir. Busy, huge, it was a huge wedding. I came back, I met ma'am, and Mrs. Sikri told me, well, you know, Justice Sikri believes you should consider applying for designation. You know, 91 I had started practice. 97 I had lost my dad. I'd floundered for a year at least. And here I was in 2005 with the judge telling me apply for seniorship, 14 years of practice. I could not comprehend it, because when I lost my dad, I used to wonder whether I will ever survive in the profession, let alone look at senior designation. Anyway, he put the seed in my mind. There were others like Justice R.C. Chopra, who retired but was very supportive, is very supportive to me, Justice Usha Mehra and others, and also Justice Manmohan Singh, who was then senior judge. He really pushed my candidature. I owe a lot to him. Justice Swatantra Kumar, even Justice Thakur, a lot of people were very kind to me. They had no occasion to be, but they're just good people. And I think they had a great part in my career. Justice Arun Kumar, very, very kind man. Now all of these people, at different points of time I learned from them, they guided me. And lo and behold, I did put in my papers in 21st July 2007. The meeting happened. There were 4 candidates. Others were also quite good. And unfortunately, I got through.
Did you have to reinvent yourself as a senior advocate?
Of course. Life is about reinvention. Look at the great Ram Jethmalani. He continued to reinvent himself. Remember, when you become a senior counsel, you are starting all over again at the bottom of the heap. Just as you began your career, you are now at another level and you have to work your way up.
Fantastic.
So there are new challenges. There's a new lot of people, except now there's a difference. When you began your career, if you make a mistake, most judges are kind and they say, "Bacha hai." They'll guide you, they'll counsel you. But when you're senior counsel, the gown silk means something. You are now expected to perform at a level where you assist and support the court in the decision-making process. And remember, and I have always tried to follow this principle, your duty is to the court and the court alone. I remember, and you can check with Chetan Sharma, Additional Solicitor General. He's a great fan of my late father's and like an elder brother to Ketki and me. Before he became senior, he was opposing my father in a matter. It was a property litigation of Jodbag, I still remember. I remember the name of the family, but that not to be disclosed. He was on the opposite side and my father was put a question. I was in court assisting my late father. And a question was put by the judge on a certain fact situation as to on the rights of different parties. So the judge looked around, then turned to my father and said, "Mr. Luthra, what do you have to say? What is the documentation and what is the basis of claim?" So my father came out, he says, "Look, these are the documents on which my clients have a right, these are the documents on which others have a right." The matter got over. Chetan Sharma ji followed my father to the chamber and said, "Sir, I want to ask you. You said something which might harm the interest of your client. I want to know why." So my father sat him down over a cup of coffee, tea I believe, and they, in chamber 109 in the High Court, my father's chamber, and said, "Chetan, but that's the fact. As an officer of the court asked me a frank question, I have to give a complete answer. At a later stage, we may interpret the document, we may argue on the basis of law, but on facts, there is no compromise."
I ask you now about a very important case that you did, the Arun Jaitley defamation case against Arvind Kejriwal. We all saw you at Patiala House Court, how you defended Mr. Jaitley. You were a Congress ASG, but you were chosen to be Mr. Jaitley's lawyer here. And I also want to ask you how it was to be opposing Ram Jethmalani.
It was 20th of December 2015.
You have a wonderful memory, elephantine memory. I read that also.
It's a genetic thing between my both parents. I inherited a good memory.
Gosh.
20 December 2015, Ketki and I were returning from a holiday in Banaras, I still remember. And I landed and there were multiple phone calls, some from Ryan Karanjawala, some from his colleague, and a couple from a New Delhi number. There were 20 calls. I called back. Sir got on the line, Mr. Jaitley came on the line. I connected finally with Mr. Karanjawala and Mr. Jaitley got on the line and said, "Sidharth, will you represent me in a criminal prosecution I want to do?" I knew Mr. Kejriwal also. My first gut instinct was, "Sir, do you really want to file criminal litigation?" Because a man of Mr. Jaitley's stature, in a magistrate's court in a personal litigation, it was out of affection. So his next question was, "Will you do it or not?" I said, "Of course I'll do it." Anyway, the rest is history. The next day we appeared and finally the matter ended with an apology from Mr. Kejriwal. which was filed in court, and the matter was closed about 2 years later.
How was it to appear against the very formidable Ram Jethmalani?
So here I'm going to tell you something about Mr. Jethmalani, Mr. Jaitley, and my interaction. Mr. Jethmalani was a contemporary in age of my father's, but of course he became a lawyer earlier. And the first KK Luthra Memorial Moot Court that was done was in 2005 in my late father's memory in the Delhi University. And I called Mr. Jethmalani for the for the prize distribution. And I requested him, I said, sir, you have to come and do this. So Justice S.K. Agarwal was there as one of the final round judges. I remember that. And as I said, I called Mr. Jethmalani. He came, but he had agreed to come, but at the last minute there was some issue. He was held up, he had some commitment in Pune. So I got on the phone with him through his office, and I had to just tell him one thing. He said, his office said he can't come, there's a commitment, he's held up. So I said, sir, I'll leave it to you. Invitations have gone out. It's in the memory of your old friend. Mr. Jethmalani made it. He cancelled the other alternate commitment and kept his original commitment and made it.
I want to take you to, first I want to ask you, I want to remind our viewers about the Nirbhaya case. You were the special public prosecutor in that case, involved in it from the very start, from the night in fact of the death, the killing, the gang rape of Nirbhaya, from seeing the evidence, from the Usha Commission, from the Verma Commission, from looking at all the evidence, from actually asking for death penalty. There were 2 cases that you did in which you had said you'd locked yourself up for 3 weeks in your friend's office to try and look at cases. Was Nirbhaya one of them?
So I'll answer that straight away. The case that I initially locked myself up in a room for 3 weeks was in my colleague Shri Singh's chamber, and that was to do the impeachment against Justice Soumitra Sen.
Oh yes, right.
Nirbhaya was a very interesting case. I had a former junior of mine, Supriya Juneja, a very bright young lady, also happens to be my cousin's daughter, who was assisting me in the matter. We argued that, of course, at various stages there were various challenges. I had done it, but much after I ceased to be ASG, that litigation remained with me, and we argued it over a period of 9 months in the Supreme Court, every Monday and Friday post lunch, and on 2 or 3 Saturdays as well. When it came to the final stage, possibly at the stage of sentence, I had concerns about asking for the death penalty of one of them. I even spoke to, now that he's retired, I can see that Vivek Gogia, who was then Joint Commissioner, and Vivek said, sir, what are you saying? How can we do this? Vivek and I are good friends. He said, Sidharth, aise nahi karo. I had my doubts. I had number of sleepless nights on this. Should for one of the accused, one ask for the death penalty or not. And then Supriya and I sat down and we again revisited the evidence over 3 weeks.
My gosh, that's amazing.
And after revisiting it, I was clear that it called for the death penalty. It has laid down a principle of law called society's cry for justice or society's collective conscience, which is all very well for death penalty, but now it is being applied elsewhere.
Which is where?
It is applied to other offences also, non-death penalty offences. So the issue is, can the fact that a crime has outraged society be used to invoke and give the death penalty? The Supreme Court said it was. A very creative and wise argument was made on the other side, that is the court not giving in to populism? To which the court has responded and said, well, we have the ability to be objective in examining these parameters in the context of heinousness of the crime. I think that matters good. That issue is going to get tested someday in the Constitution bench. And though I did argue that for the state and it was rightly upheld, I believe it is leading to a certain populist belief coming in, a populist element coming into sentencing. That may need revisiting at some point of time.
Okay. Do you think that death sentences are being handed out more?
Actually, what's happened is after the Union of India v. Shraran, another case which I did, which was the assassins of the late Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi.
Yes.
In that case, now we have these intermediate sentences, life without remission, 40 years, 30 years. So death penalty has actually almost become a complete rarity. It is now rarely handed off, and when it is invariably, it is converted to a fixed lifetime sentence.
I want to ask you, as someone who's, Mr. Luthra, always looking at rape cases, heinous rape cases. Sometimes there's a 3-year-old child who is raped, sometimes it's a girl, sometimes we're seeing even boys. Should there not be a stricter law for rape? Should there not be death for rape?
Despite the push over the last few decades to modernize investigations, make it more scientific, we are still failing in our prosecutions and investigations, in our fairness of trials. You have a completely fair procedure, by all means, give a sentence. But if the system has flaws, and I'll give you a classic case which I had argued. In 2014, I was sitting in Justice Dave's court in Court 4 in the Supreme Court. I think I just demitted office. I was on the Supreme Court Legal Services Committee, and a death penalty case came up. It's called Anokhi Lal. It's a well-reported judgment of 2019. It has a very important personal connect. Anokhi Lal was a case which was of a death and murder of a rape of a minor by one man called Anokhi Lal, put on death row. I did that case for the Legal Services Committee. Later I was appointed amicus in that. In 13 days, a judge in Madhya Pradesh convicted the man and gave him death sentence. 13 days. There were 2 labs. The first lab actually exonerated him. The second higher lab, and in Madhya Pradesh I found a trend in 3 cases at least that lower lab said evidence doesn't match, the higher lab changed the view. Same higher lab. Pattern there, and as a lawyer on the criminal side, I'm very suspicious of patterns. Anokhi Lal got argued and decided before Justice Uday Lalit. He was then not Chief Justice. His bench. And he struck down the conviction, went back to the trial court, again convicted, again came back to the High Court, again back to the trial court on account of some deficiencies. Finally, the man has been acquitted because the DNA evidence has been thrown out. Oh gosh. Who is going to give that individual the years back of his life?
I want to ask you about the stray dogs case. You were there before the Justice Pardiwala bench. So was Dr. Singh. I saw all of you arguing in that case. The case, however, went to a 3-judge bench. I know you feel strongly that stray dogs should not be in that judgment the way Justice Pardiwala said, but what should the final outcome now be?
There are certain things called the ABC rules.
Yes, yes.
If the governments of the day, if the municipalities don't enforce the rules or apply them, what were the rules to say? Pick up stray dogs, vaccinate them, sterilize them. By vaccinating, what do? You ensure that they don't spread disease. By sterilizing them, you do 2 things. No further production of stray dogs.
Correct.
Secondly, they also become less aggressive.
Yes.
That is what the studies say. And over a period of time, the population wanes. Do away with all the stray dogs in one lot. Apart from the fact that they have, they have a place in our hearts, it also means you'll upset the ecological balance. Because remember, you have other vermin, you have rats, you have insects, you have others. You will create a situation which will be unprecedented. And these are factors which we need to consider before we take any decisions, and that is the reason for the ABC rules. Now the ABC rules came in, they were supposed to be 20 centers in Delhi, 17 of them possibly sort of, and essentially non-functional. If you don't create an infrastructure, you bring in the laws in 2017, you don't implement those. I think one of the things that was initially not considered in the matter was that the government itself had taken a stand before another bench, and that's why the matter went to 3 judges.
Yes.
Where they said they are committed to enforcing the ABC rules.
That's right.
So that is the reason a request was made before the 3 judges bench by the petitioners in those cases, that these matters, there's a view taken by one bench which says don't enforce, pick up the dogs and don't enforce the rules. In other bench, the government is taking a stand to enforce the rules, and therefore this matter is to be determined by a larger bench. And fortunately, the larger benches fine-tuned it. And as Justice Vikramath put it, he has now become world famous because of that one case.
He's quite happy. I think there's another case that has made you India famous. I don't know if you'd like to talk about it, but you were the main counsel, someone who gave a lot of advice to Justice Yashwant Verma. I only ask you, I asked Mr. Rohatgi, who was also on the show, about the case, and he said you can file an FIR against Justice Verma, but he believes that the former Chief Justice of India, Justice Khanna, made an error, maybe bona fide error, in putting out the video of the unaccounted cash on the Supreme Court website. Do you think, I ask you only one question, an FIR could be or should be registered against Justice Verma?
By placing the video on the Supreme Court website or release of the interim report, and that's only a fact-finding report, that is not the committee of inquiry. The committee of inquiry under the Judges Inquiry Act has yet to start its work. I believe yes. That was not something which ought to have been done. After all, everybody is entitled to say, have their day and their say in court. Otherwise, let's be very simple. Otherwise, what is the point of having a Judges Inquiry Act? What is the point of, allowing you these rights of presumption of innocence? Otherwise, it's a simple formula. You file a complaint, yes. The police arrest, and you should be locked up in jail. What's the need of the court system? The whole purpose of the judicial system is that we have a civilized mechanism where innocence and guilt is determined.
You had once told us, and you had once stated several times, your father had said, a lawyer is a good lawyer, jo na thake, na hake, na bake. You yourself are constantly working hard. I have seen you since the longest time, and you work very hard. You're very humble about it. But how important is hard work? What's a day in your life like?
The day will begin at about 7:30, and invariably, often there are conferences in the morning for about half an hour, but otherwise I read for at least 1.5 to 2 hours in the morning. I earlier used to read in the night. In my early days, I used to read working till about 1:32, but I have shifted now to morning reading. So sometimes it may be earlier, or it's 7:30. I also try and get some exercise in the morning, very important. But normally my exercise is yoga or exercise is post-court, between court and office and time spent at home. I also like to, for me family is very important, it's paramount. And therefore, while I do work hard, my family time is very, very crucial for me.
Where do you get that time?
I make it a point, morning, then between court and office, and then again for dinner at home. Earlier, Ketki and I used to go out a lot. Now, for certain reasons, for certain family reasons, we are not going out that often. We're not going out at all, and therefore there is a lot of time. But the question is, you have to prioritize what you want to do.
Do you have any time for hobbies?
Yes, I enjoy reading non-law, history, politics, fiction, but some historical fiction, but law is not the be-all or end-all of my existence. I enjoy teaching, so I try and make time for that. We done a moot court in my father's memory. We're doing some work with Jindal Global University. But other than that, I used to be a serious sportsman, but now what I love doing is trekking in the mountains, walking in the mountains.
Lovely. Where do you go for that?
So we have a home in the hills, in the Garhwal Hills near Mussoorie. Yes. So that gives me the opportunity to walk around the hills. I think they all think I'm a crazy old man who keeps walking up and down the hills, morning and evening. Nothing can be better. I love the hills. I mean, I just love being in nature. So whether it's in not a manicured Delhi farm, but an actual farm, or the mountains, or a forest, I'm happy there. I'm at peace with myself. My grandfather was a engineer turned farmer. I used to go to his village where we had lands, and life was simple. There were no lights till the late 70s. If you had to, you bathed under a hand pump or in the tube well, and you, for your bodily functions, you went out to the fields.
You've always spoken about your father. We've all seen the KK Luthra moot court that you've done. It's become almost like a tradition at Campus Law Center at Delhi University. Your mother, you've been a dutiful son. You've always spoken about your mother. She was very close to you. How important was it for you to be a dutiful son?
I think your parents give you so much that you can never even honor it enough. My father used to say, a father can be the world's best friend, but the mother is the world's greatest lover.
Lovely.
Because the mother's love is unparalleled and limitless. So I think I would say that my love and affection for my parents was only an attempt to reciprocate what all they gave me. The value system, the upbringing, the education. So I was just seeking, I've always sought to honor those emotions and that bounty that I got from my parents, from my grandfather. And I can't understand what it means not to be a dutiful child. It's not a sense of, I think it's, to say that we are doing it out of a sense of duty is belittling the emotional connect between a parent and a child. I'm sorry I'm being harsh, but there is also a saying which my grandmother used to say, I never saw her because she passed away before I was born, about children. And I often relate this, hai ye gumbad ki awaaz jaisi kaho waisi suno. So what your parents imbibe in you, you are part of that. That is what you are. You respond in the same, or you seek to respond in the same fashion. If you don't, it's a matter of people's choice.
Do you even like Urdu poetry? When you're speaking, it's almost as if you're going to start reciting something.
Urdu ज़बान का मुझे बहुत शौक है, बहुत मोहब्बत है उस ज़बान से. My father was a great connoisseur of Urdu, Persian, Arabic, Urdu, Persian really, and poetry. He could read and write Arabic, and of course, he knew Shakespeare by heart.
Oh.
Yeah. The only language he did not know, because he grew up in West Punjab, in what is now Pakistan, so he couldn't read or write a word of Hindi to save his life. Okay. My mother, of course, was fluent in English, Hindi, Punjabi. She could read and write Gurmukhi as well, and Sanskrit. So that was what my parents were, and I think it's very important because people forget Urdu is a language born of this country, of this subcontinent. वो पराई नहीं है, उसको हम पराई बनाए जा रहे हैं. It is not spoken by a section or a religious community. It is the other word for Urdu was Hindavi, the language of Hind, Hindustani. It was Dakhani in South, in Hyderabad, etc. But it's called Hindavi in the north of India. It's the same language, just variations with local dialects. It's the language that grew out of this subcontinent, out of a, should we say, integration or a combination of cultures.
Very interesting.
And a lot of characters in Urdu, the majority characters in Urdu have a Sanskrit origin. Some Portuguese, some Persian, Arabic, majority, I think 18 out of 34 are Sanskrit based.
You've spoken about your family, being very attached to them. Tell us a little bit, Mr. Luthra, about your children, about your family.
I've got two boys. My elder son is married. We have a wonderful daughter-in-law. But I don't like speaking too much because it's there. I don't want to discuss about my children, but they're all lovely, wonderful kids. They're all professionals, all lawyers. My son, my elder son, my daughter-in-law, my younger son who's in England, he's just come back. I have my sister's children who are also in the legal profession. Some are not, fortunately. And as Ketki, my wife, often says, if we don't produce lawyers in this family, we marry them.
Okay, so this is a family that talks law, discusses law. This is what you're all possibly doing.
No, not true. We do discuss law, we do talk law at times, but we have other interests.
Travel, is that something that is important for you? Travel with the family, anything on your bucket list?
There is so many things on my bucket list that it's almost endless, but yes,
tell us about your bucket list.
I've always enjoyed traveling, and for me traveling with the family is important. The only travel I do other than work travel is with the family for vacations.
Right.
And whether it's India or abroad, there is so much to see in India. We spent a few years ago, Ketki and I, another couple, an 11-day holiday in Meghalaya. Meghalaya is drop dead beautiful. To call it the Scotland of the Least is belittling it. It's too beautiful. I think it's comparable to, as people would say, Kashmir or anywhere. It's really outstanding. There is so much. Arunachal is beautiful. That's on the bucket list. I went to Tripura for a day. I've got to go back there within India. I would love to. We've done Araku Valley. We've done, of course, driven the road from Vishakhapatnam to Araku Valley and back, seen the Bora Falls. There is a lot to see within this country. And then there's a lot to see overseas. But, you know, Europe is nice. Europe is pretty. But there's only so much you can do. I have a fondness for England, but because I studied there, so that's parts of England are very pretty, but done a fair bit of that. And then I think there are a lot of parts of the Americas which I'd like to do.
Okay. That could be on your bucket list.
It is on my bucket list, but it's a long list.
What else
and
is on
time
your
is
bucket
finite.
list? What else? Like, what are the other things that you wish to have time for?
Last year I wanted to trek to Hemkund Sahib and do the Valley of Flowers.
Yes.
Last year, as you know, in July there was a lot of rain.
Yes.
So it couldn't happen. And that's 2024. So, and I trained through the summer vacation. I was exercising, running on a daily basis to make myself fit for it. Couldn't happen this year. Hopefully next year.
Very nice, very nice. I ask you quick questions now, sir. This is the rapid fire, I would say, with Mr. Luthra. A book you think every lawyer must read?
Zafarnama by Guru Gobind Singh and Blink. I think it's Malcolm Gladwell. Two very interesting books.
Yes.
Read it. Worth it.
Yes. Your favorite judgment other than your own cases?
My own cases are not my favorite judgments. The ones that I read always are the ones I lose in.
Okay.
It's very important for me to know where I've gone wrong. And therefore, I may not read the ones I've succeeded, but I always read the ones I've lost. I think there's a beautiful passage in a judgment called Sachidanand Pandey relating to the Taj Bengal property by Justice Chinnappa Reddy. It is the most beautiful exposition of man's connection with the environment. It quotes a speech by I think a Red Indian chief, by a Red Indian chief, and I would recommend everybody to read that.
A few questions left. One courtroom habit you just cannot tolerate?
Arguing over each other, too much screaming. We've reached a point where we are losing the elementary courtesies. It used to happen in other courts. Now it's permeated the Supreme Court also. Why can't we show this grace and politeness to our colleagues? Why do tempers rise? We're not fighting. We are representing other people, and we should do it in a civil fashion.
We just saw this inheritance battle where Mr. Rajiv Nair and Mr. Jethmalani had this fight. It went viral on social media. Something like this should not be happening among senior advocates.
Not commenting on that case because there's a case I'm connected with, but overall, it is a situation which has permeated almost every court and fora in the country. It has to stop. And it is for us as senior counsel to lead the way, to teach the junior bar that we must be graceful to opponents. That's what the Bar Council rules requires.
The one counsel from the past you would have loved to argue or oppose?
For me, two of the most challenging people to oppose would have been Mr. Jethmalani, Mr. Fali Nariman. Those are two people. And third, on the criminal side, would be Mr. Feroz Vakil, PR Vakil. Of course, I could have never opposed my own father, but I lost him too early. But it would have been a pleasure, if not to see him in action in court more often. I just lost him too early.
Yes. My last question, Mr. Luthra, if you weren't a lawyer, what profession would you choose?
I started with the beginning saying I wanted to be an academic. I'm in the wrong place. Circumstances kept me here. I still love to teach. I still teach. I took a lecture last week at the National Law University, Delhi. Previously, at the prior week at the Hyderabad Police Academy. I want to hang up my boots soon, maybe not as soon as I'd like to, but soon enough someday, and get back to teaching. It's time to give back, always.
I think on that note, sir, we thank you for being with us on the legal side of things, and I wish you good health, a lot of teaching, but I wish you a very prosperous, continuous career as a senior advocate in the Supreme Court. We don't want to lose you to the field of teaching just yet. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Rin. As always, a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, sir.
MDH की हल्दी मिर्ची धनिया करे कमाल, ये रंग दे, ये खुशबू दे, ये तीखा, ये कम पड़े, क्या निराला MDH मसाला।
इसको घर पे लगाओगे तो शादी का तो पता नहीं, पर घर पक्का नहीं टूटेगा।
रुका नहीं तो घर